My goal today is to give you some nuggets to take home that you'll be able to implement into your training and teaching and training and coaching your athletes of all walks of lives. I made teaching and training and coaching my mission, and I had the opportunity to be around some of the most successful people in the world. And I made it my goal to understand what do they do when they're at their best. And along that way, I came up from giving driving lessons at dusty driving ranges. I got involved in the resort business. I worked for Byron Nelson. I was his director of his operations in schools for 3 years, and that helped catapult my career. And I started developing a youth academy in the early 2000s, and I had a partnership with Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys Golf Club for 15 years. And that's really kind of where, that was the longest place that I really kind of put my stake, as you might say, and I started developing my academy. And in that time frame, I developed academy from just a few kids up to 150 kids. And I realized real quick that I needed to have systems to manage a big operation. And if I was going to stay in business in coaching these kids, I had to change my model. So I started looking at all the other sports. I looked at football, baseball, basketball, volleyball, lacrosse, all the high performance programs around our DFW area. And I realized that I had to start coaching golf in a team environment, a high performance environment. I had a relationship with the NFL through Jerry Jones. And about that time, that's when Bill Parcells came on board. And he was a golfer. And he and I really struck it off really well. And still to this day, we're very close friends. He brought me into the NFL, and I really started learning how they trained athletes, right? I thought I understood training. I had no clue what training was. And I really thought I knew performance, you know, because I'm coaching guys on tour, and I'm doing all this, and I'm having guys win on all tours all around the world. And I really thought I knew what I was doing. And you know what? I really didn't know what I was doing. And I don't know how I was doing it. And then when I really started understanding how athletes trained, performance started happening. You know, and then I was always stuck in this teaching space. And it was hard for me to get out of this teaching space into the training space. But once I leaped out of that and I got in the training space, it opened up. And there was this piece that I was missing, and it was the think piece. It was the mindset piece. Because I could train the athletes, and I had some athletes that could get across the finish line and some that couldn't. And a lot of coaches that I was listening to, they would point to the athletes and say, well, my athletes aren't getting it done. Folks, you know, just like my friend Parcells always said, he goes, if you're going to point the finger, you better be standing in front of the mirror. Well, I got introduced to the Olympic arena, and a guy by the name of Lanny Basham was the first guy that I got introduced to. And that's where I learned the think piece, the mindset piece. And it took it to an entirely different level. And so now I had the training piece, I started understanding the performance, and now I had the mindset piece. And that piece wasn't based on sports psychology. It was based on winning at the Olympic level. And there's a huge difference. Over the course of 17 years, I built this system, Elite Performance Systems. So I had the laboratory to test it every day in and day out on these kids, and define it, measure it, and time it over and over again. So I had a laboratory. And I got it to where it was a fine-tuned system. And so now, I spend my time and spend my space in the college arena. And for me, I'm so unconventional, I like change. And I got to have new things going on all the time. And that's what really keeps me going, and maybe it's a little too much because it keeps me up at night. But that's okay. And so I took my system and I rolled it out to the college space. Now I have over 25 universities using this system around the country, and I spend my time on the road consulting for universities around the country. Now it's morphed in from golf to baseball, basketball, volleyball, lacrosse, football. And would I ever thought of that? No. When I go into the college space, I can't do anything technical. NCAA compliance will not allow anything technical. But what I can do, I can help them with mastering how to think, train, and perform. So my goal today is to rinse through some of these concepts that I've put together and give you some concrete things that you can take home, not only from a business perspective, but also from a life perspective, and that you can pass on to your athletes that you're working with. So when you look at performance, okay, it's broken down into 3 indicators. And it's always one of these 3 indicators. One is, how does a person think in a high performance state? Okay, all right. The other is, how has a person been trained for their performance? Okay. And the third is, which I'd never heard until I got to the Olympic space, is the reinforcement piece. How does an athlete reinforce? How does an athlete reinforce the day, the week, the month, the year? How do they talk to themselves? How do they write about themselves? How do they communicate about themselves? How do they allow others to talk to them? How do they allow coaches to talk to them? How do their parents talk to them? Right? It is a 3-phase system. You have the anticipation phase, the action phase, and the reinforcement phase. In the anticipation phase, when athletes are performing at their best, what are they thinking about before the action? And why? Is it the same every single time? Is it defined? Is it measured? Is it timed? Is it the same every single time they perform a task? Okay? We defined it, we measured it, and we timed it. Okay? The action phase, during the action. Okay? What are they thinking about during the action, and why? Has it been defined? Has it been measured? Has it been timed? Is it the same time every single time? Okay? Think about that for a second. You're hitting a golf shot. Is it the same time every single time? Do you do the same thing on every single shot? Do you think about the same thing in the anticipation phase for every single shot? Is it defined? They do at the Olympic level for everything. Okay? Now the reinforcement phase, right? This is the most important phase of the entire system and in every program. When athletes are performing at their best, what are they thinking about after the task? After you hit a shot, what are you thinking about? You throwing the club in the bag and saying a few cuss words and heading down the fairway? What are you thinking about? What should you think about? Why is it important to think about something? Okay? We're going to talk about those things. So now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the mindset piece, okay? And kind of give you just a couple insights on the mindset piece, on the mindset program, okay? So this is a 3-phase mindset program. Before you hit a shot, you're going to preload the shot. It's what we call preloading the shot. You're going to learn to build a systematic strategy so you can commit to the action every single time. And not only do you do that when you're performing, you do that when you're training. Oh wow, we do it in training? Yeah, we do it in training. And you know what? Your training should have higher consequences than your competition. But that's kind of the mindset you need to have, is that if you're training your athletes for heavy competition, your training needs to have higher consequences then the actual competition. Because when competition comes around, what do you want? You want it to be easy for them, right? Oh, I can't wait to show off. I mean, think about an Olympian. 4 years, they're training for one event. Man, they can't wait to show off. The action phase. During the action, learn to define and control your thoughts while executing the action. You know, golf has more variables than any sport that we play. Having consistent thoughts in an inconsistent environment. And they have to be defined. And so that you can control them and turn it over to your subconscious so that you can hit the shot. You can't be over the golf ball thinking about what the swing's going to do. It's too late. And if you happen to hit it well, that's because you've got great skill. Not because your self-image allowed you to do it. It needs to be systematic. Lie, yardage, conditions. Same thing every single time. That's what we use. Lie, yardage, conditions. The second is a three-step process. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Point of initiation, point of alignment, point of focus. And then after you hit the shot, you got to reload it. Everything's broken into three. Lie, yardage, conditions, point of initiation, point of alignment, point of focus. Was it great? Was it good? Does it need work? How do you talk to yourself after you hit a shot? When you hit it, whoosh, that just went in the trees. Geez, I suck. Club goes in the bag. As opposed to, man, that shot freaking needs work. I better get this fixed and go to my solutions immediately, or this is going to be a long day out here in this environment. That when you hit a shot in your training, and you know what the solution is, and then you imprint that exact solution for that shot, then when you get to the next ball, and you hit that shot with that imprint that you made, and that ball goes, great. What do you do next? You hit that great shot. You turn around and you make that same imprint of what you just did, hitting it great. If you can't catch fire in practice, how in the hell are you going to catch fire in competition? Not going to happen. But if you reinforce it all the time in what you're doing, and the imprints are right, you can grow the self-image to where it becomes like me to do this. I always do this. I often do this. So these are the 4 stages of development. Okay? You got training to learn, training to compete, training to win, and it doesn't stop here. Train to advance. So what does that look like? In training to learn, okay, pretty simple. In this stage, the athletes are learning techniques, language of techniques, language of the coach, how to communicate, how the communication's done, and the procedures of the operation. Kind of simple, right? So let's talk about the second level, training to compete, okay? Once the athlete has begun to learn the language, okay, replicate and duplicate their own techniques, okay, or run plays in a team environment, and even manage their game at a reasonable level, we can begin to train the athlete to compete. I'm not telling you anything that you haven't heard before. All I did was spent 17 years putting framework around it and defining it. Every single step. This is where it gets interesting, folks. So this type of player has begun to accomplish mastery in the language, training, and competing. Now we can begin to teach, train, and coach this person to win. Okay? I want you to remember this. Winning has varying degrees. Does a person that averages 78, can they win?
Sure.
Yes.
They may not win the trophy, but they can have winning performances. And when you start learning how to set goals that have outcome and performance goals, and they're set proportionately, you can grow that person to where they can have championship wins. Okay? The win is not always about taking home the trophy. It's about having winning performances. And there's a lot of people like you see it every week on the PGA Tour. The guy that wins the event, he may not have had the best round that day. There's somebody that shot 62. Did they have a winning performance? The guy shoots 62? Absolutely. And you know what? It could have been a personal best. That's even more important. Okay? Players at this level have developed a higher skill set, higher goals, and train harder than those training to compete. That's all. Third, your competition calendar must be at a higher level than when you were in training to win stage. They become very strategic and they become very tactful. And that's how you advance your athletes to the next level. So now, these are the stages that the athletes come in at, right? Training to learn, training to compete, training to win, training to advance. Now let's talk about the training. Okay, let's talk about what that looks like. All right, so in the Olympic training program, to accomplish your goals, this is what this looks like. Okay, you have training for feel. That's when you're working on the technical side. Anything technical, learning new moves, whatever that is. Outcome is not defined. Remember that. It's one of the biggest mistakes that you can do is work on technical and put outcome in front of them. You really want to screw things up, just get after it and do that. Because, hey, let me tell you what, I did it for a long time and I had no clue what I was doing. All I was doing is kept correcting, kept teaching, kept correcting, right? So when you're working on feel or technical, okay, make sure that you remove the outcome, okay? All right. So now let's say that we're working on short game, all right? We'll go back to that. And you're teaching a particular player how to hit a particular shot around the green. Let's say just a simple medium lie with a sand wedge with 1-to-1. One part height, 1 part roll, okay? And they've gotten pretty good at this. They've gotten to where they can hit this shot, right? Now I want you to show me that you can execute this shot. Here's the lie. Here's the target. Hit the shot. Now let's do that again. Wow, you're getting pretty good at this. Now I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to train for the course. I'm going to train for the round. What's that look like? I'm going to get up around the green. I'm going to take, let's say, 6 cones. And I use cones all the time. I'm going to put 6 cones around this green. For this particular kind of shot that I was working on with them, right? Medium live pitch shot, 1 part flight, 1 part roll. Okay? You got the technical piece. You showed me you can execute the shot. Now let's train for the round. Okay? What I want you to do is I want you to work your way around to each of these cones and just hit the shot. I don't want you to finish it out. Just hit the shot at the flag. Pick it up, move to the next. Wow, you're getting pretty good at this. Let's move it up a notch. Let's make the consequences a little more difficult. Now we're going to train for competition. You're going to go around these cones, you're going to chip them up, you're going to finish them out. Now remember, and I want you to write this down. Every training piece that you do, if you're training anyone, keep the self-image on the front burner of when you're training. It's the first thing that you think about is the self-image, okay? Because you have to protect it so you can grow it. And when you can grow the self-image, you can advance the you can do anything with the athlete. So now I'm going to train for competition. Out of these 6 cones, how many can you get up and down? Give me a number. And you can't pick 6. What does 6 do?
Set up for failure.
Set up for failure, exactly. Does that protect the self-image? No, it doesn't. So you pick a number X or better. So it gives you the leeway, right? So out of that 6, you know what, Coach? I think I can do 4. I'm getting pretty good at this. Okay, get after it. Watch them go around. How'd you do? Coach, I got 2. Okay, what'd you learn? Well, I learned that, man, I just really don't have the technical piece on this every time. Okay, what else you learn? Man, I get a little nervous. It's what you want. Okay, so what does the norm do? What do the 95% do? They say, okay, I got 2 out of the 6. What do they want to do? I want to do it. You're exactly right. I want to do it again. And you let them. Then they get none. Where's the self-image going now? It's shrinking down to 0. Okay? What should you do? Coach, I need some solutions on this shot. I go back here. I go back training for feel. Get a feel for it. That doesn't take long, right? Because they showed you they could hit the shot before, but then when you put them in somewhat of a high-performance state, they start crumbling. All right, then you go from there. Okay, now show me the shot. This was everything that you do. Training for the course, then go to training for the round. Do it every single time. Full swing, short game, distance wedges, putting, all the way around. You just keep following the model. That's the secret sauce right there. So this is the program within the system. And if you really start advancing your athletes and you go from training to learn, training to compete, training to win, training to advance, and you just keep following the system. Now I'm going to get to share with you the Olympic goal-getting model. All right, I'm going to take you through it because I think it's important. It's important in business. It's important with your athletes. It's important in life. Okay, so the goal, you're going to be able to establish your probable and attainable goals. I do this with athletes as a team. Okay, business-wise, you're going to need to do that as a team. You're going to establish individual goals based on your team goals. So your team's got a goal. Okay, as an individual, what are you contributing? What's your contribution going to be to this team that you can contribute for us to get here? Okay? Now then you're going to learn to define and manage your obstacles. We'll talk about those. And then you'll learn to define, design, and manage your training based on your goals. So you've got certain goals. Now your training has to fit to accomplish these goals. So let's say you're going to try to accomplish a goal. Remember, it has to be attainable. The goal has to be attainable, but it also has to be probable. Okay? All right. Determine the goal. You got it. Step 2. Here's a big mistake that most people make. They don't set the exact date when they want to accomplish it. I want to accomplish this goal by August 15th, 2019. When it's defined, it sets a sense of urgency. When it's defined, it's measured and it's timed. Now you can start putting the plan together and manage that to get this thing across the finish line so that you're going to accomplish this goal, or at least there's a sense of urgency to accomplish it. Oh, well, this is what I want to do in 2019. You have to list the pay value. Why do you want this goal? What are you going to get out of it? You got to have these conversations with people that you're working with and your athletes. Why do you want to do this? It could be as simple, man, I just want to beat my dad. I just want to beat Pops. Okay, let's get after it. This is what it looks like. Okay, it can be that simple. Okay, example, if I accomplish this goal, this is going to improve my chances to win. It can be that simple. Have you ever thought about this? There's 168 hours in a week. Budget your time. Don't tell me you don't have enough time, because there's 168 hours in a week. Prior to reaching your goals, here's a huge mistake that people make when they start having success. Prior to reaching your goals, set another one to take its place. You already have that goal set. And when you accomplish it, bam, it's already in place, ready to go. Make sense? You look at this in performing. You get an athlete that goes out and wins a competition for the first time. Doesn't have a goal set for the second. Then what happens? Oh, they usually go out, they overtrain, and they overtry in the next competition. What happens? They have a personal best. They come along here, they have a personal best, and they win a competition. Bam, personal best. Next competition comes along, and they dip down. But they only dip down below their personal best. They haven't dipped down all this other area down here, their averages. They're still on the uptake. But if you don't set a goal, you can start having a bigger decline. That's what you don't want. And it's not about winning again, it's about having a winning performance. How do I go about having another winning performance? Collective winning performances produce champions. Okay. Yes, sir?
Does that go back to self-image then?
It's a self-image adjustment. It's exactly right. So you could have a personal best and you win an event and you blow it out of the water, shoot 27 under par, and the most you've ever shot in a four-day event has been 10. And you shoot 27 under par and you blow it out of the water. So man, it's like this. But then you got to be realistic, say, okay, hey, I won for the very first time. What's my goal for the next event? It starts over. Preparation starts over. Anticipation phase, action phase, reinforcement phase. It starts over for the training. We talk about the self-image, okay? Self-image is an important piece, okay? Why is it? So for example, you have your conscious mind. Those are your thoughts, right? When you're learning something. And when you have to think to do something, you have to consciously think about it, okay? Then you have your subconscious. That's your skills, right? It's what you've learned. When you've mastered something, you can do it and not even think about it, okay? Then underneath this, self-image. Self-image is the sum of your habits and attitudes. It makes you act like you. Some people are real comfortable shooting under par. Guy shoots 68 almost every time he tees it up. His self-image, it's like him to do that. Me, I'm comfortable shooting 78. I get 4 or 5 under par. I'm not real comfortable with that. So I have a self-image adjustment that goes bogey, 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 triple and gets me back to 78. Sound? Everybody done that? We've been there? That's how your athletes perform. So how do you change that? How do you change performance? You have to change the self-image. You have to reinforce it all the time. So in a performance analysis, the top of it is it's the day and date. What's the location? What was my objective? Okay? What did I do today and what did I learn? Write it out. And it's handwritten. Stanford did the study. If you handwrite something, it increases learning by 30%. Then on the next page, solutions. I'm looking for a solution to better my distance putting. Under that, what I did well today. This is where you give the athlete the opportunity to brag about what they did that day. Nobody likes braggers. I love them when I'm reading them in performance analysis. And I want them in full color. I want it as this Jim Nance broadcasting this thing all the way from the tee shot to you hold the putt. And here was the lie, here was the yardage, here was the distance, here was everything. I built the strategy. It was 168 yards. It was an easy 7-iron for me. Wind was coming in at 2 o'clock on the right. I hit it right at the corner of the green. It broke, it bent right back to the left, drew right into the flag, 8 feet below the hole. I went up, I ran my program, I built my strategy. The putt did this. I mean, full detail. Because you get athletes start thinking like that and imprinting that, they're going to be hard to beat.